Shalom Aleichem. My name is Rav Kalman Flax, and I'm really excited to share with you a few thoughts on this week's Parsha, Parshat Neetzavim. And I want to begin with a story. So I usually begin my Erev Shabbos with a little game called Ultimate Frisbee. For the last 15 years ago, I biked down to Gan Soccer, and now I scoot there. And I have a great time. One particular Erev Shabbos, I saw this awesome sefer right after Shachar. It's called Divine Providence, or Hashgacha in Hebrew. And it was all about the dynamics of how divine providence worked. And I was so curious. And I said, you know what? Instead of biking down there, I'm going to walk to Gan Soccer. I'll learn as I walk on the way there. I'll learn on the way back, and I'll get some extra Torah in. It was right before Rosh Hashanah time, and I figured I could use a few more schuyot, learn a little bit more Torah, and I'm learning all about how divine providence works. And as I get to the Frisbee field, I get an email from my student, Ben Nygwood. And Ben has not sent me an email for like years, so I was quite surprised. And in the title of the email, it says, Hashgacha Pratis, exactly the book I was reading. I get a title that says Hashgacha Pratis, or Divine Providence. And I thought that was pretty Hashgacha, pretty amazing. In the end, what happened was I had happened to have sent him an email of my Dvar Halacha, which directly related to his life. And what I want to, discuss together is, was that just a coincidence? Was I primed to see Hashgacha Pratis as I was reading a book? Or is there something deeper going on here? So let's come back to our Parsha. Parsha Neetzavim begins a bit strangely, in my opinion, if you read it carefully. The Parsha says that the Jewish people are being placed into this brit. And if we are loyal to the brit, Pasuk Yud Bet writes, L'man ekimotcha hayom lo la'am. God will place you as his nation. V'hu yeh lecha le'Elohim. And he will be for you as a God. So wait, God's godliness is dependent on us doing the mitzvahs? And if we stop doing the mitzvahs, would he not be our God anymore? Does that make sense? Isn't God all-powerful? So what's going on here? And of course, we're going to answer a question with another question, because it brought me back to another similar type of question. And that's in Bereshis Perek Chaf Chet, when Yaakov is running away from his brother Esau. And he's scared, and he makes a vow. And it says in Pasuk Chaf, Vayidor Yaakov neder le'amor, and Yaakov makes a vow. Ini Elokim imadi, if God will be with me, Ushmarani, and he will watch over me. And he'll give me clothing and food. And I get to return back to my father's house. And God will be for me as a God. And once again, all the commentators are bothered. And God will be for me a God? What do you mean? He's a God regardless. What does Yaakov Avinu mean that God will be for me as a God? But perhaps the understanding is like this. Elokim apparently can sometimes not just be talking philosophically about he's God and God, but rather, do I feel a personal connection with this God? Yaakov is asking to feel a personal connection with this God. And Parsha Neetzavim is saying that if we're loyal to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, then we will feel that personal Elokim relationship, that personal relationship with the HaKadosh Baruch Hu, like he is my personal God. And in my opinion, maybe that's what was going on here in this Frisbee situation. Because I pushed myself a little bit more to learn a little bit of extra Torah, God was showing his extra love, his extra godliness, that extra personal relationship. This brings me to a very, very famous Rambam. The Rambam in the Guide for the Perplexed is trying to understand the concept of Hashgacha Pratis, or divine providence. And the way that the Rambam explains it is that most of the world is actually running through what's called Derech HaTeva. the natural way, the way that God has set up the system. And a person can choose to align himself with a different way of the world working, which is called Hashgacha Pratis, or God's divine help. But that is dependent on your actions and your thoughts and your consciousness. If you are God conscious and God aware, Shifti Hashem lenegdi tamid, placing HaKadosh Baruch Hu truly in your life, then you can choose to get the Hashgacha Pratis, the divine help. But if you choose to see the world with glasses where there's no God, then often God will choose to say, okay, you'll go al derech hateva, you go your way, and I'll go mine, so to speak. So ultimately, the choice is in our hands. Or in the words of the Baal Shem Tov, and yeah, it's beautiful to put the Rambam and the Baal Shem Tov together here. Hashem tzilcha. He darshans out the pasuk. What does it mean, Hashem tzilcha? It means Hashem is your tzel. Hashem is your shadow. Exactly the way that you move towards God, God moves after you. We do the itorut milatate, the awakening from below, and that awakens the awakening from above. We're about to come into the Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur season. We're going to go through these days where we're saying over and over and over, Hashem's the Melech, Hashem's the King. Perhaps what we're really trying to do is remind ourselves to have that personal relationship with the Kadosh Baruch Hu, and to have that God awareness, not that everything we do needs to be aligned with the Ratzon of Hashem, that He's the Melech and He's the Molech Aleinu. He rules over us completely based on whether our brain is aligned with doing His Ratzon or not. And we make that choice, and we're choosing to align ourselves with that covenant to coronate HaKadosh Baruch Hu in our mind, that Rosh Hashanah. Now, this all sounds maybe a little philosophical, maybe give you a very practical takeaway, give me a very practical takeaway. What we're basically trying to say here is that we need to make a real personal relationship with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. Where does that start? Right now, we're going on a honeymoon with the Kadosh Baruch Hu, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Slichos, extra time to just focus on Hashem and to talk to Hashem, to journal, to cheshbon nefesh, and to do hitbodedut, to really speak to our Kadosh Baruch Hu in our tefillos, and whenever we can. Maybe when we're saying a bracha, to stop, to really focus on being in the presence of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. And in the zchus of that extra consciousness, that extra focus that we are giving towards bringing Hashem into our lives, may Hashem give us a lot of extra divine help, a lot of love. May He inscribe us in the book of life, write us and inscribe us in the book of life, which is you who are attached to a Kadosh Baruch Hu, who are thoughtful, who are conscientious, that is true life. And may we see miracles. Bezrat Hashem, may we see miracles in our lives. If you did enjoy this little Dvar Torah, please be in touch. You can ask any questions, and who knows, maybe you'll be part of a Dvar Torah in the future if you write Hashgacha Pratis. You never know. And I wish you an amazing Shabbos and Aktivim V'Chasima Tova Bezrat Hashem. Mm-hmm.